everyone, welcome back to online learnings. In this video, we'll be discussing about OSI model and TCPIP model and the comparison between these two models. Before diving deep into the topic, I want to make sure that you all know the answers from the previous videos questions. So please pause the screen in order to match the answers. So why reference models are important? In order to have a clear vision of how networking works, you can't be able to see the packets flowing across the network, right? You won't be able to see because it's a logical representation of networking which we are creating in real world so that people can understand it. So therefore reference models are easier to understand. There are some layers which divide uh, which differentiate the other layers, and there is no complexity between the topics, so you can clearly understand what each layer does and what its functionality is. So OSI reference model, it provides details of functions and services that occur at each layer, right? And it describes the interaction of each layer with other layers. So these layers, they interact with each other in order to make sure that that data is transferred correctly. So in order to do that, there is some communication, there is some interaction between the layers. Therefore OSI model describes the functionalities of these layers. And uh, initially the very first model was OSI reference model, and then TCPIP model came, which is structured around OSI model. So almost they are same, but there are some comparisons which we will make in the in the coming slides. And one very important point which everyone confuses is whenever you have to talk about OSI model layers, you always say that this is layer 1, we are talking about layer 2, we are talking about, because sometimes there is confusion that transport layer of which model, OSI layer or TCP/IP model. So therefore, in order to avoid that confusion, we refer to the layers of OSI model as layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and not with the names. And the last point is OSI model has 7 layers. So in the diagram on the screen, you can see first layer is physical layer, then data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. So we'll be going in decreasing order. So firstly, we'll be discussing about the 7th layer, which is application layer. It contains protocols used for process-to-process communication. So after this discussion or brief discussion of models, we'll go in detail of all the layers and come to know about everything. But right now we are just understanding the structure of the models. And the 6th layer is presentation layer. It provides common presentation representation of data. So in whenever you see a web page or some when you browse something, there is like a button is situated on this side of the page, text box is situated on that side of the page. So the presentation of the page, like there is a headline, there is some title, all this presentation comes under presentation layer. Then comes the session layer. Session layer provides services to the presentation layer to organize its dialogue and manage data exchange. So whenever you input your data into some pages, and then the next page pops out. So all this the interaction between sessions is being done using session layer. Then comes the transport layer. So these are the layers: transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer, which will go in depth across this series. So transport layer defines services to segment, transport, and reassemble data uh, for individual communication. So transport layer makes sure that the services are being transferred. Network layer provides services to exchange the individual pieces of data. So overall, the transport layer, network layer, their way of their functionality is almost same, but the way they do things is different, which we'll go in detail. Then there is data link layer. So all these layers, it's the same functionality to transfer data from one end device to another end device, but the way in which they do is quite different. Data link layer protocols describes methods for exchanging data frames, and physical layer, it definitely, you know, that the main bits transmission takes place with the help of physical layer. So if you have two end devices which are attached to a wire, then the bits will be transferred across the wire. So the wire is the medium. The medium can be a wireless also. So physical layer describes the mechanical, electrical, functional, procedural means to activate, maintain, or deactivate the physical connections. So if you want to deactivate the connection, if you don't want your Wi-Fi to work in your home, you can just switch off, you can just remove the wire, and in that way you are deactivating the connection, right? So there will be no physical transmission even though there is any other layer, but there will be no transmission because bit is the basic transmission unit. Now let's talk about TCP/IP model. It came after OSI model and it is structured around OSI model. So that means it is influenced by OSI model. In OSI model we had 7 layers, but in TCP/IP we have 4 layers. So what we did do is we merged some of the layers here and here. So that's why we have now 4 layers. Also referred to as internet model, used as a reference model because it describes the functions that occur at each layer. Similar to OSI model, it also describes functions. It is look wise, it is less complicated because it has less layers, and TCP/IP layers are referred only by name. So in OSI model we used layer 1, layer 2, right? But if we have to refer to TCP/IP model, you have to say that we are talking about internet layer, we're talking about transport layer, because transport layer is also present in OSI model. So there can be confusion. Application layer is also present in OSI model, right? So in order to avoid that confusion, we use names in TCP/IP model. So we were saying transport layer, internet layer, application layer. But if I say layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, then that means automatically I'm talking about OSI layer, OSI models. Since TCP/IP model has less layers, it's easier, it's not complex. So application layer, we have represents data to the user plus encoding and dialog control. We'll know about this in the later series. Then there is transport layer. It supports communication between various devices across different networks. Then there is internet layer, which describes the best path through the network. Then network access controls the hardware, devices, and media that make up the internet, that make up the network. So pretty easy. We have application layer, which represents the data across the devices. Then there is transport layer, which makes sure that communication takes place between devices across different networks. Then internet layer tries to figure out which is the best path to reach the destination. And then the network access layer controls the hardware, devices, and the media which constitute the which constitute the network. Coming to the comparison, like you've seen here, these 3 layers are merged into the application layer of TCP/IP model. Then transport layer is same. So that's the situation where people get they are so confused. And the network layer of OSI model is said to be the internet layer of TCP/IP model. And then data link and physical layer are together, which are named as network access layer. Talking about the similarities, as you've seen in the previous figure which I showed, the network layer L3. So L3, layer 3, that means I'm talking about OSI model. Right now I said OSI, I've written OSI model to avoid any confusion. But I would have, eventually, if anybody would have written, it would have, he or she would have written like this, network layer, that's it. Or sorry, layer 3, that means it is network layer of OSI model. It maps, very important, maps internet layer. So network layer and the internet layer are the same, but network layer is of OSI model and internet layer is of TCP/IP model. Then the transport layer, layer 4 of OSI model, and the transport layer of TCP model are the same because the names are also same. But the only difference, only similarity is the network layer is same as internet layer. Of course, there are some differences in the protocols, there are advanced protocols, but the functionality is same. Then we come to the differences. So what are the differences? So as you saw in the picture, the OSI model separates data link layer from physical layer. So there is one physical layer and then there is data link layer. But in TCP/IP, there is only one network access. So network access constitutes of both the functionalities of these layers. But in OSI model, there are two layers, physical layer and data link layer, which helps to understand more better um, the functionality of networking. Then the layers 5, 6, 7, which are used for application, like application layer, presentation layer, and session layer, they all are combined in the TCP/IP model, and they all combined form application layer, right? Thank you so much for watching the video. Stay tuned for more videos with in detail, and please like and subscribe to the channel Online Learnings for more videos.